Now I can make it on stage. So, woo! I have the honor to talk about our pioneer work, what we did together with Allianz, Pega, and Accenture. And I talk about taming legacy applications. And when we say taming legacy applications, so we like to speak about, we like to compare it with curating the perfect zoo. And you now hear maybe a little bit different story than what you have might expected. So let's dive directly into it, what we will do and what you will hear about in the next 30 minutes. So I will first talk about the life of a zookeeper. And in this zoo lives a very special bird. So it's called the old bird, and Max is the owner of the old bird and is taking good care of the old bird in his zoo. But the old bird has, of course, some challenges. It's obviously a legacy application, and it's about to be updated. So we will talk about how do we transform the whole thing? How do we help Max to do his zoo transformation? And to understand this and get more insights into it and help Max to come up with a new bird who is kind of ready for the future. And we will take you along on this journey. And as I said, I have with me Max from Allianz and Vitali, who is the more technical guy on this endeavor. So, the life of the zookeeper. And I think as many of you are working in the IT, are IT leaders, maybe can rely very much with the story. So, you as a zookeeper, you have old lions running around in your zoo. So they are majestic, so they have power. You need them. They're building your backbone. You have nice little, and also big elephants running around. So these are legacy databases, systems. You need to run your business, but they are expensive. And also, when it comes to adoption of new stuff, it's not that easy. And then you have the lovely dinosaurs. You are scared of them, so they have already run out of their lives, so they are end-of-life systems. You are scared, you don't want to touch them, but you still need to live with them, and at the end of the day, you need to think about how to get rid of them. And then, very relevant for your business, and what the visitors, where the visitors are getting very much attracted, are they fancy and exotic little birds. So these are custom apps which are fragile, costly, but you need them. And many of your technical guys are excited about them because they are very special. And then you have, many of us know it, that you have the monkeys. They are annoying. They are running around in your zoo and causing trouble and keep you uncomfy. So what do I mean with monkeys? So you have patches, you have workarounds, you have requests coming in on a daily basis, and you need to manage them. And I think, my mic is still working. And this as a zookeeper and as somebody who is working in the IT, this keeps you pretty busy. And so you have not the easiest life. And this is not staying as is. And yesterday at the dinner, I heard someone joking, IT is not shrinking, IT is always growing. So your zoo gets bigger every day. So new applications are coming in, new platforms are coming in, new technologies are coming in. So you need to maintain your stuff. And as you have very special animals in there, you also need to have special caretakers so that you make sure that everything is up and running. And you also need to think about your employees, your customers, so it's getting kind of uncomfy for them because sometimes the processes are not that lean anymore, so integrations are not working. And then you also have the compliance inspectors. So you have regulations, you need to be secure, you need to know none of your crazy animals should escape or do something wrong, so you have a tough life, right? And aside from costs you all can imagine, and if we have on the slide, we called it hidden costs, but they are not just hidden, because you need to keep your zoo running. You have to have specialized zookeepers, so if you don't have them internally, because maybe also your internal guys are getting older, some are retiring, so you need to hire externals or really pay for specialists. And then again, your animals develop special habits. That means that maybe your underlying infrastructure needs to be enhanced, and this all costs you. And of course, keeping the security fencing updated and up and running, this is also something where normally costs are involved. And again, coming back to your users, as an unhappy user also is causing trouble in your organization, you can imagine, and I think many of you can already relate to what I'm talking about. And this is then leading to the challenge of the zookeeper. So how do I come back from this chaos to harmony? How do I get from my isolated cages into an integrated ecosystem? How do I come back from just I'm reacting on stuff to I'm getting in a proactive mode and can manage what I'm doing? And I think one thing is for sure, all of these challenges you are having, you soon need to be up and running and open and be secure, and you need to feed your animals and so on. So it's not an option to, just run away. And when I talk about these challenges, I would like to introduce you to the actual zookeeper, Max, who has faced a lot of these challenges and who will talk about what he's experienced on an everyday life before, and I can already tease it, talk about how we can help to overcome these challenges and how we can use AI to find a smart way to do this. And with that, I hand over to Max.
Yes, thanks so much, Juliane. So I have the honor to tell you a real zoo story on the example of the Allianz global corporate and specialty application landscape. And a zookeeper at Allianz runs between many enclosures and faces all these things, and you can see here on the slide. So the zookeeper, first of all, has to manage over 130 applications. And just to tie it back into the zoo analogy, like all these applications are different species, and most of them even live in different enclosures and environments. So what comes with that is that we are facing rising costs because we have to maintain all these different environments. And on top of that, we also have very limited agility because adoption to new regulations is difficult or not possible with this kind of setup. And another big problem that we are facing is the different feeding times for all of our animals and the different care requirements, right? Because each animal requires specialized expertise. And on top of that, sometimes the knowledge about the different animals is not even sufficiently documented. And that's just the same with all of our IT applications and IT systems. And yeah, last but not least, the systems do not interact optimally with each other. And like animals that do not play with each other or that don't even like each other, we need to put them into different enclosures. And that's a big challenge for us. So in this challenging landscape, we have some general issues that come with that I also want to mention on top here. You kind of find yourself in a constant crisis mode when things break, because with all these different animals that live in different enclosures, there is always one enclosure that's broken that you have to fix. So there you are in a constant alert mode and a constant mode of fixing things. So that's a big problem. Another big problem is scaling is almost impossible because adding enclosures is nothing you can just simply do. There is only so much space. So scaling is another big issue here. And at the end, the risk potential due to outdated systems is another major issue here. So as you can hear, it's a challenging landscape, and even we face all those challenges. We are an organization, organization that wants to be profitable. So we also still have the target to reduce costs. With this 15 to 20% cost reduction is an area that we want to be in. So much for setting the frame. When we now go to the next part of this presentation, I want to talk about the BERT tool that Juliane already mentioned. And BERT is basically, it's the basis for how we work together with Accenture and Pega um, on what Juliane will explain, or Vitali will explain to you later in a bit more detail. But first, let me dive into what bird is exactly. So we see bird as a dinosaur or an exotic bird in our IT zoo. And let me explain to you what it is, then you will understand why. So BERT stands for Business Integrity Review Tool. And this tool supports our underwriting, claims, and risk consulting teams in conducting formal business reviews. These reviews ensure adherence to our internal policies and procedures at Allianz. So it's basically a governance control. As part of these reviews, the users create review sets and they complete structured questionnaires in these review sets. And in these questionnaires, then they capture findings and they capture action items to remediate the findings. And at the end of the review, they generate a PDF report, which they then share with all the stakeholders. And what this tool does, it provides consistency and auditability, especially compared to what was previously a manual Excel file driven process. So it's fair to say it has been a valuable tool for Allianz for many years. But why is it now seen as a legacy tool? First of all, it's built as an Eclipse slash Java desktop application, which was suitable for rich client and offline capability needs at the time. But that's quite at least in today's standards, an old technology. And its heavy clients and local files and complex updates are now seen as drawbacks. And on top of that, um, it has slow and costly enhancements due to the code work and the packaging and the rollout requirements that we have with this. And its architectural limitations restrict us from having quick feature additions. So it turns every minor improvement into a project, which is not ideal. So overall, it's just not designed for the speed and the scale that would be expected today. And I mean, against this background, so why were users no longer happy with this? First, we have a collaboration challenge for our review teams. Because the way how our reviews work is that it's not just one individual, it's a whole team of around like 3 to 5 people who work on these kind of reviews. And the co-reviewers, they could not work in parallel, which leads to waiting time and to rework time. They could not work in parallel on the same review. So that's a big problem. The user experience is another issue. The user experience feels quite outdated compared to a modern web application because it has excessive clicks and it's not intuitive in its navigation. We as Allianz, we have a demand for more modern analytics and integration. So we want to be able to do richer reporting. We want it to be integrated into our emails. It should have touch points with our calendars just to make the workflow easier. And speaking of workflow, this tool has an offline file design which complicates workflows because it requires you to download the reviews to your local desktop environment, then you work on it, and then you upload it again. So there is a lot of version reconciliation efforts involved in this as well. Another workflow issue is that not the whole review process is actually built in the tool. So you cannot complete the whole review process just in the tool. There is some alignment steps with, for example, the reviewed entity that has to be done manually outside of the tool. So another big issue for our users from our workflow component. So overall, there is just the desire on the user side for a browser-based live collaboration. And on the bottom line, I can say BERT provided structure and fulfilled its role in the past, but due to its high cost of change, a slow feature delivery, and the user friction, we identified it as a legacy candidate. And now transitioning to a modern browser-based approach enables real-time collaboration faster iteration, and also the desired integration and insights that we need. And with that, I want to hand over back to you guys on the stage for the next part.
Interested. So now we talk about how we helped Max to overcome his challenges. So what you have heard about the application, so yeah, definitely there is, he needs to act, and we as an Accenture team, also together with Pega, we have created a great asset, which we talk about in a few minutes or seconds. And we were coming back to the Allianz guys and saying, hey guys, so we have something for you, and this is also in this area something what we have not really done before. So we do pioneer work here together with you. Are you in? And yeah, so more or less nothing to lose, only to win. So this is when we started our endeavor. And starting our endeavor, we brought in digital rangers. And when I say digital rangers, so we assembled a team of AI specialists, of platform engineers, and blueprint architects. And now the ranger from the Accenture team is coming and talking about the real ranger work. Woo!
Hello, everyone. I hope you're enjoying the zoo talk and you're able to follow all the zoo words. Now it's going to get a bit more technical because now you have the ranger, the digital ranger. As part of my job is to assess what is the current application, what is going on there, right? Is this an Argentinosaurus? Are you familiar with that word? No fans of dinosaurs here. Argentinosaurus is a very big dinosaur, like 20 meters and 500 metric tons weight. Or is it the T-Rex? Much smaller one, right? I hope you're following my talk here. So is it a complex and large application, a very big dinosaur that we need to replace, or a small and easy one? So what did we pick in this case? What do you think? We start with the T-Rex, because let's start with something small first. As Juliane was mentioning, this was the first time that we're trying this out, so let's start with something less complex. So once we understood what is the original application, we then need to look at what's going to be the target application that we want to bring this into, because it needs to be a suitable replacement that brings all the benefits. Now, you've already heard from Max all the challenges they had, right? He said he wanted something browser-based, he wanted a new user interface, he wanted parallel work and collaboration. A modern tool was needed. So from our assessment, we knew that a Pega application would be a good fit. Now, in case you haven't heard of Pega before, Google it, look up Pega Blueprint. That's one of the tools that is freely available to you, so you can just try it out. Browser-based, GenAI powered. And that helped us to show the future vision and to preview it. So on the process, how did we actually approach the legacy transformation? We from Accenture brought our own reverse engineering tool. That's what you see on the left side. That is GenWizard. GenWizard is also GenAI powered, and it allows us to assess the legacy code. And if you've ever done a legacy transformation before, it takes a long time to understand what it does, right? What would you do? You would maybe talk to the people that work with this application to try to understand what they're doing, but that takes lots of time, and lots of time of Maximilian and his team to explain to us how it works, right? Now, what's your other approach? Your other approach is you go in and you look at the code and you read the lines, right? So you need a Java developer in this case, or many Java developers, and you need many weeks, if not months, to assemble all the code and understand what it does. GenWizard shortens that assessment period from months into weeks. So that GenAI power tool tells us exactly what this application does from a code perspective, right? Then we output the structured metadata from this, and we put it now into the forward engineering tool, which is what I mentioned is Pega's Blueprint in this instance. So Pega's Blueprint then allows us to visualize how the old application will look like in a new application, which is the new target application, Pega, right? So of course, in that process, you now need expertise. You need expertise from someone who understands the old application, but we have that from GenWizard. You need expertise who can now map the old ways of working into new ways of working. If you listen to Maximilian, he said they had to download files, they had to send files in Outlook. Not a nice way of working, right? So your process is now changing. That means you are now not downloading and uploading files. The new tool can do that for you automatically, right? So that means you need to understand how the new application works and re-engineer your processes. And that's where we then used Blueprint to then visualize and refactor this a couple of times until we found that solution that will work. So on the kind of big picture perspective, how did we actually collaborate together with Allianz? There was the start. In the initial phase is the reverse engineering part, right? So all that Maximilian and his team have to provide at this point is the code, any documentation, because as you know with GenAI, if you are bad in prompting and you just ask a silly question, you will get a silly answer, right? So we do need good quality input to get good quality output. So if we have more than just the code, we will get better output, right? So luckily, Allianz, for their bird, had good documentation and training materials and handbooks that we could feed in as a RAG to our tool. Then it gives us better outputs. The outputs are processes, data models, user stories for rebuilding this, and any personas and stakeholders, so we can understand how they are working together in those processes. Now, all of this information then flows into the next step, which is our process discovery. So this is where the tool is running. We get the requirements together. We can play back a few things and kind of assemble a version 1 and a version 2 of the future state of working in the new Pega application, because now we have extracted everything we needed from the old application, right? Then the third step is the fun step, because this is now where we have that workshop, the future part. So in this part, we come together with the business, the actual product owners from Allianz, and we present to them a working, living bird that is reborn and is able to fly now. Because now it's flying in a very modern, very fast application. We can preview it to them. We can show them this is how your old processes were and this is how they look like now. And let's redesign the processes together, right? We know out of the box, Pega, this target application, will give you the following benefits and features, and this is how your new way of working could look like. Do you agree or not, right? And this is a really interesting moment because after 2 weeks, we have the extract. 2 more weeks, we already have a new application working. But until this point, no developer was involved. So we didn't have a developer building the new application, but still we can preview it thanks to GenAI tools. Now, the next step is, once we agreed on the future version, we do get developers in, because the Blueprint application can create a draft application for us. But as you know, with enterprise applications, the devil is in the detail, right? You need to develop validations. You need to develop certain calculations. You might need to recalibrate your data model. You might need to discuss access roles and access groups and things like that, right? So there we invested, what was it, 2 or 3 weeks of application build to fine-tune and work out the details, so that after this, we had a working pilot application that we could actually show to the business end to end, and they can now see the old ways of working in a new modern application that is ready to scale. And that brings that huge cost benefit to Max and his team, because now they can save time, they have the latest features, and they can scale that application really quickly to more areas, to more features, to more functionality. And that's where we then go into production very soon. Now, from the details, what did the two tools give to us? So with GenWizard, as it was a pilot, we analyzed 87,000 lines of code. So it's a small part, right? As I mentioned to you, we didn't go for the Argentine Raus, but we went to the T-Rex. Then the next part we have is we generate artifacts. So as I was mentioning, GenWizard extracts the processes, the data models, the personas involved, the business logic in every step, the validations in every step. But on top of that, it generates the user stories for us, so that when we get to that later phase of building out the details with developers, we have the roadmap, we have the user stories ready for you to develop, right? And that gives us a huge acceleration to cut that discovery and build phase much shorter than a traditional approach to legacy transformation. And that's really a big change. Now, on the blueprint part, as we are drafting this application, and we have an API connection between GenWizard and Blueprint, as we are drafting this application, it actually builds a working draft application. So it's not that I just have a visual view of a new application. No, I have a button that I can import this into a Pega environment, and it instantly becomes a working product, right? So that's why we're saying 75% of real use of the assets that we are generating from here. So it's really rapid application development, very visual, very easy to understand, and very dynamic with lots of reusability. And that's the power of the three, right? Allianz together with Pega Systems and Accenture. Now, in the next step, I would like you to actually get a better look into what did this mean for Maximilian and his team, right? How did the user experience change? How did the dinosaur look like? And how does this new, modern, colorful bird look like? So, Maximilian, over to you.
Yeah, thanks so much. And before I jump into the results that we achieved here, I just also want to re-emphasize what Vitali just said. I mean, this whole rapid discovery process with the reverse engineering component was a game changer for us, because since we did not reinvent the wheel or the dinosaur here, so this really helped to very quickly create a strong foundation that we then could build up on. So that was really great. But yeah, let's see the results that we were able to achieve here. On the left side, you see what we have with the old bird, and on the right side, you can see what we achieved with the new bird. So by modernizing the Eclipse RCP application to a next-gen Pega solution, we went from a desktop application that had outdated dependencies and security and compatibility risks to a web-based application with a layered architecture. We had an outdated user interface with too many issues with the old bird, and now we have modern user interface frameworks and responsive design to adapt to different resolutions. And we had this concurrent access issue, right, which I mentioned initially, where the parallel working was not possible. And now with the use of subcases in the new Pega tool, we allow multiple people to work in parallel on one review, which is a great positive aspect for us. And last but not least, the report implementation was very complex and time-consuming with the old bird. And now with the out-of-the-box process metrics reports, business reports can be implemented with ease with the new bird Pega solution. And just to make this a bit more tangible for you, and in the interest of time, I will just go over this very quickly on the next couple of slides. But we included some screenshots for you. So if we go to the next slide, yeah, you can see this is what the old bird looked like. So that's the landing page for the users. You will go in, you have all of your case files that you created in the system, and then from there you would have to download them to your local environment, so you're able to work on each case file that you want to review, and then you have to upload them again. So we went from this to, on the next slide, which looks like this. So that's now the landing page in the new tool and the portal for our users. So as you can already see it, I mean, this looks like a state-of-the-art web-based application, and you have, as a user, you have your work list with all the work that's assigned to you. You have a general overview with all the case files and the reviews that are going on maybe in your department. I mean, that can be configured as it's needed. And then you even have some dashboard functionalities, which allows you to get an easy overview of, for example, the work that's done and the work that still has to be done. So another example is on the next slide. This would be the page where you start to enter the details of your review. You can see it doesn't look very intuitive. And then we went from this to, on the next slide, just something that looks way more modern. It's way easier to use for our users. The text fields, they respond to how much text you enter in it. In the old tool, the text always got cut off if you wrote too much text in these fields. So it's just way more modern. And then one more screenshot on the next slide is just I included this one because I wanted to show here you can on the top see all those process steps. So this tool really leads you through each process step one by one, so it's very intuitive. It really supports the overall workflow, and it's just way easier for our users. And with that, I hand back over to you guys on the stage for one last time.
Yes, thank you. And we now sum it up. I think it was great to hear also from Max how it changed and that you have experienced this. And I want to already mention that we have in our Accenture environment, we have demo sessions and you can come to us. So we are there right after this session. So if you want to see a live demo, so we are there, and of course you ask questions. So, and again, to sum it up and being back on the zoo story, so what the animal gained. So definitely better health. It's now young again, good looking and ready for the future. What the visitors gained, and when I mean visitors, also what Max mentioned is the guys who need to work with this application on a daily basis. So it's definitely, I mean, you could already see it. This is from a usability perspective, from a UI perspective, it's way better. And also from a time-consuming perspective, with this we could reduce the efforts between 5 and 50 minutes per case, and this is exceptional in this way. And then also what IT gained. So from a cost perspective, definitely this is reducing the costs, but also from a maintenance perspective, and it's also scalable. So, and when I say scalable, and I think that's also important for this whole endeavor what we're doing. So this was the first pioneer work, but Allianz has lined up a lot more applications coming out of this area. So with this, we could prove, hey, this is an approach we can take to move ahead, and we can, we can go through the zoo and find some other animals which we might bring back on this path. So definitely a really great success story for us. And then, to sum it up from a return of investment story, so what you, I think, can already imagine. So this is coming from really operational efficiency to scalability, risk reduction, maturity, you can name it. So, and for us, it's a great success. And what I want to highlight is this is a team effort. So it's Allianz is our client, it's Pega as our partner, and Accenture. We have done this together, and in this endeavor, we really, I would say, we put our, badges aside, and we came together as a team, and we wanted to make this work. And this is, I think, really the way to success. So it's not like that some provider or client is expecting you to do something in a hidden room and then come back after 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So you need to be in this together, and also people. So I think we were a team, and we are a team who are completely engaged into this and passionate about AI and seeing what this future can bring to us. So it's this mindset what make us, or what is making us successful. And yeah, and both tools, GenWizard and also Pega Blueprint, they are not magic sticks. You need also to have human in the loop, brain in there. You need to try, so there are errors. It's not everything, nice and shiny. So you need to work with it, but you learn. And the way you're learning, so the next time we already can leverage our knowledge and be again faster, better, and it's also, I would say, great fun to be in such an endeavor. Yeah. So with that, I close, and we have some time for questions, if you have some.
Juliane, Vitali, Max. Go. I will stand in the middle. As I always do, just take the popular questions. So we'll go on top to see no fighting over who's going to answer. What kind of tool did you use to retrieve knowledge from source code? I think that's for you.
So in this case, it's GenWizard, so it's an Accenture IP tool. But of course, you could do this with any ChatGPT solution as well. But we have built some assets. We built an API to Blueprint. It's more structured. It's more based on a certain methodology and target. So it's more efficient than just a generic GPT that will give you answers, but how usable are they? Question mark, right? So that's the answer.
Okay. Next up, after generating from, I wanted to say, Max, can you move a bit out of the way? Well, anyway, after generating from source code, Blueprint, and user stories, someone needs to compare and double-check functionality with the customer. It looks at the same time as without generating Blueprint, doesn't it?
Correct. We are cutting down the discovery phase in the drafting of the application. But as Juliane was mentioning, we still need the human in the loop. We still need to talk to Maximilian and ask him, is this the new way of working that you are expecting, right?
Okay. Keep the questions coming. What is the path and time from pilot to full rollout and a real enterprise application? And how did AI help there?
So we went from the start of the pilot till the end of the pilot in 3 months. Now we are in the process of finalizing going into production. So that is another 3 months, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, this is good. We're on the roll. Is it possible to apply the shared approach for existing old web application already integrated to landscape of other applications? I have no idea what I just read.
Yeah, not sure I understood the question.
Okay. So whoever asked this, go to the team afterwards. Second one, what do we got here? What are the arguments in favor of reinventing the wheel in its entirely instead of modernizing the existing solution or using the components besides the arguments already mentioned? That's a good one.
Juliane or Maximilian?
Max, Juliane.
Well, what we did here was not to reinvent the wheel, right? Because, it's, from my perspective as somebody from the business side, it depends if the process that you have in place and that is supported by the tool, if that's something that you're generally happy with, but it's just the supporting application that's not so great, then you don't want to reinvent the wheel. You want to modernize the existing solution. And that's the case that we had here. So I'm not sure if I can answer this question, but that to me it would be the major difference, right? If the process itself works, then you don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Okay, thank you. I think this is interesting to build on Juliane, Max here. What have you learned on this path? Were there any problems you would avoid now? You made it sound very appealing, but I assume there were some challenges and probably also some key success factors. So maybe Max, you can answer. Juliane, who wants to start?
Maybe I let Max start, as I already shared some of the experience and what, from our perspective, made us successful. But
okay, Max.
Yeah. I mean, from a problem side, I can share as somebody who represents a large organization. I can say that sometimes even if you're extremely quick and you're able to move quick due to all this to this innovative approach on the technical side, sometimes our internal processes of getting things approved and aligning things were not that fast. So that was actually interesting to see that for the first time we were actually able to get everything set up and move forward from a technical side, but the internal approval processes were not set up in that way. So that's something that we will have to work on in the future.
Okay.
Yeah, and I can echo on that. It's the same on Accenture side. So those who are from Accenture, so we also have a lot of internal processes, and it was like we were like ready to go and like, okay, you need to do this and that and sign and this tool and blah blah blah. So definitely, yeah. But at the end, we made it work.
Nice. So the fact that this happened, that the pioneering work was actually done, is a great milestone. And then the last one before we go to the break and switch rooms: was old Eclipse code also part of the review, or just only old Applicarian parts?
If I remember this right, we did get the Eclipse library together with all the Java code, so yes.
Okay, then on that note, I would say thank you, Juliane, thank you, Vitali, thank you, Max in the US. Give a big round of applause. Thank you so much for this presentation.